Kulsum from Zerodha. One of the biggest problems we are figuring our ways to solve at Zerodha is to get more women to invest. Because today the percentage of women who invest in India is abysmally low due to various reasons. We've been trying to figure out various ways to tackle this issue, and one of the most important pieces of this puzzle was financial education. With Varsity, we probably run one of the most comprehensive and popular financial education initiatives in the world. But we also felt that a woman's perspective was necessary. So the idea of this podcast is to talk to some of the kick-ass women in finance today and get them to share their perspectives and journeys, and most importantly highlight all that they have achieved. Hopefully this will help you to not only start your personal finance journeys but also inspire you. Hello everyone again. Thanks for tuning into this conversation. Today we have a really special guest. We have Aparna Karnik of DSP Mutual Fund. Aparna is the head of risk and quantitative analysis at DSP. Aparna has a rich experience of over 16 years in investments, credit and risk. We reached out to Aparna and she graciously agreed to do this on the same day. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us and share us your experiences, Aparna. So tell us a little bit about who you are and your journey into the markets.
So actually, thank you for that very kind introduction. And I think, I should first start with saying, it's not just me, really. It is so many people, my family, who have supported me, and and a huge a team that I am part of, which is responsible for the for the work that we do at DSP. So probably I deserve only part of the credit there. And I'm absolutely very happy to for this platform and this opportunity to share whatever insights or whatever part of the journey with other younger women, particularly who also aspire for careers in finance. So honestly, I don't think I had really thought when I was much younger that I would be part of the capital markets. So to some extent, it was an opportunity which came by, and I kind of grabbed it, and it led me to where I am. So it's it's not really about it's not that I specifically intended to join the capital markets, but part of the journey was that I always aspired to work for really good organizations in the financial sector, and previously worked with CRISIL ratings prior to joining DSP, and then 10 years with DSP in different functions, particularly risk and more recently a lot of the quantitative based fields as well. So I would say partly it's it's chance that that led me here, but what always happens to be the case is that I always tried to make the best of whatever opportunity was given to me, and I always tried to grab whatever opportunity came my way. So I think that's true of any field. If you have a attitude of self-belief and you try to capitalize on whatever opportunities come your way, you will tend to do well. Hopefully you will succeed in achieving your goals. So so that's what really. So I'm basically just a regular Mumbai girl, like many of the listeners here. And yeah, I mean it's like even it doesn't really matter if you have the desire and the will to succeed. Then there's no reason why there's no reason why you should not believe in yourself. So it's
great. God. So how did you end up in DSP? Like it's the.
So
I just wanted to know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had joined DSP in 2010 in May, So
Okay.
at that point of time, DSP was looking for somebody to build up their risk team, their risk function. So DSP has always had a very strong focus on risk management right from the early 2000s. So they were looking for somebody to strengthen their risk management function at that time, and I had a lot of experience on particularly credit risk side as part of CRISIL. So in that context, I had I knew there was an opportunity, so I applied for that opportunity, and then joined DSP. And the interesting thing about my journey in DSP is that while I joined largely as part of the credit function, but over a period of time with the BlackRock Association, etc., there were always many opportunities to widen the understanding and the skill set. So over a period of time, we learned as a team, we learned the techniques not just for credit risk management, but also other investment risks like liquidity risk or counterparty risk, or equity, looking at equity risks. So a lot of the rigor and training essentially that I went through at DSP was on the risk management side, which involves a lot of quant-based analytics as well. It was always called the risk and quantitative analysis team. So essentially, you could say that the rigor or the base is risk management, and probably being a good risk manager, generally is a good is a good skill to have when you're in investment management, because it's all about ultimately managing risks, and that's essentially the journey.
So when you say risk and quantitative analysis, it sounds kind of very fascinating and interesting. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so there are many facets to risk management. So risk is essentially uncertainty, to put it very simply. And so it's managing for, it's wanting, you can want something to happen, but you always have to be ready for facing some uncertainties along the way. So it's all about how do you manage the uncertainty when you invest. And there's so many variables when you look at investing. There are so many external variables that affect the investments. There are so many country, macro variables, global variables. There are so many company-specific nuances. And then there are so many specific facets on portfolio construction that you need to be careful about. So these are all the things that basically we try to keep in mind when we're looking at managing portfolios.
Okay. So how hard was it for you to reach where you are today? Like it's largely a men's club is what people perceive it to be. And it's so bad that all AMCs except Edelweiss is headed by women today. And you rarely see the names of women among the so-called star fund manager list. So how was your journey coming up to this?
No, but I'll just add here, while that may be the case, I do believe there are some very strong and experienced, fund managers who are in UTI, for example, or SBI, even, other, of course, Edelweiss, we all know, So it's not that rare, I think, as what,
Yes.
it's not as rare or unusual as what what you may feel. And look, even if we look outside the country, there are stellar fund managers of both genders. So at
Yes, yes,
least
definitely.
the way I thought of my journeys, I never really thought about gender being playing any role at all in it. It's all about the person and their individual aspirations and their individual capabilities, which ultimately matter. And the gender doesn't and shouldn't matter at all,
Matter.
frankly.
Yeah, and that's what we are trying to, portray out for all the young women and millennials who want to start investing or get into financial markets. So throughout your professional journey, do you think the Indian asset management space has done a better of bringing in more women to the industry? Also, what do you think needs to happen to see more women on the top in the positions like you and others that you just mentioned?
Honestly, I think, asset management and is a very small microcosm actually of the financial services industry. If you look at the financial services industry in a more holistic manner, like you look at banking, for example, and insurance and other, you'll find that there are actually many, it's a profession which actually women have really excelled at.
Yeah.
And they have been, heads of very large banks, other financial institutions, insurance companies, etc. So actually, it's a field which women can do very well in, and it's something which they have been able to excel at in the Indian context also. So. So I don't know. I mean, of course, I think if it's all meritocracy, really speaking, So if there are a lot of candidates available or wanting to apply for a particular position, ready to put in that effort, and who also aspire to it,
Yes.
then I really don't think there's any reason why we will not, even if we don't do anything specific, not see a lot of women in this field coming up. I think in terms of for us, like if you ask me that if there are a lot of young women out there who want to or who aspire to, I think you have to just push yourself forward.
Yes.
Sort of do the hard work, put in the hours, get the relevant technical expertise, and there is no reason why you will not be able to reach basically the goal. Because honestly, the ecosystem is very at least what I have seen in DSP and in CRISIL also, I'll say, always very encouraging towards people of both genders, be it women or men. There was no discrimination. The culture was very, very, and is very, very open for anybody to basically excel, So there, I mean, you have to just basically find an organization with the right culture, which I was lucky enough to do for, both the areas where I've spent most of my career, and, who encourage essentially meritocracy, whether it is whichever gender. And there's no reason why you won't be able to excel if you're willing to put in the hard work which is required. So it's I think as leaders, most what I have seen, I mean, from my experience, is that people are very sensitive and very open to to having not just an all boys club by any stretch, So like if we look at DSP, for example, there are so many women uh, across the senior management. Apart from, I'm one of them, but I'm one of many, is what I'm trying to tell you. There are
Yes.
many very strong, experienced women at leadership roles across the organization, So, and that's the way it should be,
Yes.
So.
Yes. Okay. So I have a few money management for women sorts of questions for you lined up. So before we talk about personal finance, I would ask you a bit of an odd question. So personal finance has probably the most cliches around, and especially when it comes to women. So what are some of the biggest cliches about women and investing that are now annoy you the most?
So one is assuming that women don't have an interest or aptitude to manage their own finances is
Yeah.
is clearly not true because they have both the aptitude and the willingness to manage their own finances essentially. So that's a cliche. I think another cliche is that women don't have a serious attitude towards financial matters. which again is not true, because sort of financial independence and the aspirations of the family, etc., are equally important to the woman in the house as they are to the rest of the family members. So I think, even assuming that women will not have the same attitude towards these things as men itself is a cliche.
Yeah.
We should, I mean, it's the same goals and aspirations that we all have ultimately as professionals, as parents, as individuals. So it's there is no difference whether you're a woman or you're a man. And there's no need to assume that the thought process of a woman should be any different than that of a man when it comes to money matters.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I hope everybody gets a thought of this from you. And so let's dive into personal finance now. People in general don't really pay attention that they should do their personal finance. And in the women pay, and they say women pay lesser attention. What do you think is the biggest reasons who so few women take time to figure out and manage their finances? Because we don't see a lot of women investing or keen in learning or joining the finance industries.
Yeah. No, I think so. Honestly, I think it's more of lack of awareness, because,
Yeah,
and it's not something which is maybe taught or, given enough importance when it comes to schools or colleges. The power of compounding, the power of, the importance of building wealth, beating inflation, all these concepts which we kind of breathe in every day.
yeah,
The importance of diversification. So it's nothing, it's lack of awareness. Possibly, these things should be covered more holistically. Even say for school, like a 10th standard or a 12th standard, a 12th grade type of students, they should be exposed to these concepts and to the importance
right.
of this. So I think with the right education, the awareness will automatically come. And it is better it is taught in a very constructive way, or the exposure is given in a very constructive way, rather than people sort of doing more speculative type of activities,
Right.
rather than investing, having some kind of exposure to basic principles when they are maybe in the senior school itself or college level.
Yeah.
That I think would really help a lot to build the awareness. And once the awareness is there, then automatically people will invest more confidently, more sensibly, and they feel more in control of things. So the unfortunate thing is that there's a lot of there's a very low awareness about all these things. There's low
Yes.
education. So I think education will solve this problem. Finance is important, and it should be covered, just like in our schools we cover so many subjects. Even investments, finance is a very important part
Yes.
of our lives, and it should be covered.
Covered.
At least
Yeah.
something should be covered in school and college. Then I'm pretty sure it will make a huge difference to the way people approach it.
Yeah, in my college, I was just taught what a share is and what are capital markets, primary markets, and secondary markets. That's it. There's nothing else
Yeah.
taught.
So
So
I
I,
mean,
yeah,
this type of thing is taught maybe in management schools, etc. People get some more exposure, but other than that, it's not something which is given enough importance in normal senior school and other. So somebody who's say doing science, or somebody who's doing history, or somebody
yes,
who's majoring in in fields like architecture. I mean, they don't have any exposure because it's not been covered in
covered.
school, basic, and it should be at least the foundations. So
Yeah,
then they can also invest more confidently. They know what they're. Otherwise, it's more of fear, and it's more of lack of awareness, rather
yeah.
than rather than it being a very complex subject. It's actually not that complicated. It's fairly simple. Um,
I
So
think
that's,
it's lack of awareness, like you mentioned. So
yeah.
I want to stay a little more on this and say for a woman who has absolutely no clue or a very less idea like I am about personal finance, how would you advise her to go about figuring this out? Because money can be frankly saying very scary when you're starting to figure it out, even for people with finance backgrounds actually.
Yeah. See, the truth is that, it is always good to approach these things professionally. See, if you're sick, you go to a doctor, right?
Yes,
You know,
yes.
if you need some legal advice, you go to a lawyer. You need tax advice, you go to a CA. Correct. So the same principle, if you need financial advice, the best way to do it is go to a professional advisor. And there are so many sort of qualified professional advisors. So once you find a good advisor that you can trust, then it's you have to go through the process. You have to understand your goals, your risk appetite, and then they will guide you in terms of the asset allocation that you need to follow, what kind of income that you earn, how much you should be investing regularly, what type of asset classes that you need to be investing in, so they'll help you to do it very systematically. And to my mind, that's really the best approach for somebody who, it's better to do it that way rather than, to do it on your own when you wouldn't, you would go to a doctor, you would go to a lawyer, you would go to a CA. So then you should go to also, you want to learn sports. You don't just see a YouTube video and, you go to a coach, right, to learn something. So, I mean, you have to go to the professional person who can guide you to do it in a proper way. That's what I would advise.
Yeah, that's a great advice. Uh, so a woman, a homemaker, on top of having to take care of kids, her career and so on, and this means women typically who end up outsourcing money from their husbands. How important it is for women to figure out the overall personal finance picture out.
No, I think it's very important because, the fact is that in a world where everything is in flux and, ultimately, you can't, just, you should be financially independent to the extent possible, of course, in whatever form or fashion. I mean, at least if it means at least some basic awareness of, you need to have the ability to manage on your own. If it comes to that, if for whatever reason you're called on to manage, so you need to at least know basic banking. You need to know what are the investments which your family has. You need to make sure you're a nominee on the sort of bank accounts and other accounts. You need to make sure the house, etc., is also on your name. You need to at least at least be aware about. I mean, what I know is a lot of people, they're not even aware. They don't know. They don't know what are the family's investments. They don't know where those investments are. They don't know how to access those investments. They don't know. They don't know what insurance policies may be there in the family which they can rely on. They don't even go to the bank, or they don't even sort of have their own net banks. A lot of this is changing. I don't think today's generation is very savvy, and with the kind of fintech and etc. which is available, I believe today's generation is far more savvy about these things
Yes.
than maybe some of the older generations. But I think basic awareness is the first thing. Then, of course, you manage as per your circumstances, but at least you should be aware about, you should not be ignorant about these things.
Yeah. So, having said that, in this whole personal finance journeys, how should women think about their relationship with money? Like, I think you covered most of it, but would you like to elaborate a little bit?
Yeah. So, I don't, it should be a relationship like any good relationship, I think, it's a relationship with a friend,
Yeah,
a
not
relationship with
toxic.
a partner, not toxic.
Yeah.
So money is a means. money is a way for you to live your life the way you want to live your life.
Yeah.
It's not a means by itself. So but it is a necessary part of your life. It helps you to achieve your goals. So I would say that you should not be afraid. It should not intimidate you. It should not be something you fear. It should be a very comfortable, healthy, friendly relationship. Something you can rely on to help you achieve, manage through difficult times, enjoy the good times. it's, it's like that.
Yeah, so let's specifically talk about investing here, which is frankly can be intimidating for women, although you said it shouldn't be intimidating. So how can they start out investing? So how would some like me who is new to investing go about this with stocks, mutual funds, insurance, salesman platforms? I mean, there are bunch of things out there. I think it's a jungle.
That's true. That's true. No, that's why one of the things I said, even if you're young or you're starting off early, the best thing would be to maybe, you know, talk to a
Yeah.
professional advisor. There are people, otherwise, for somebody who's, reasonably well informed about the financial landscape, go for simple products, do regular savings, put, things which are, I would recommend, SIPs in simple equity funds, or index funds which are available. No need to go for very complicated or complex products. Simple, tax efficient, transparent products with low fees. In Indian financial markets are very, very well regulated, relatively speaking. So maybe have some regular savings, in index funds like say a Nifty or a BSE 200 type of funds. Maybe look for diversified mutual funds which have long track records, and probably that's the best way to go in terms of just simple investments. But again, the right thing to do would be to structure it and customize it to your income and your goals, very using some professional advice. But assume you don't have access to professional advice, still you can simply invest parts of your regular income in products like mutual funds or index funds, which over a period of time will beat the inflation rate and compound your wealth. So to that extent, that could also be a simple starting point for anybody.
Yeah. So, like you said, women need to have a considerable amount of savings there. So, do you want to emphasize how much of an impact a saving can do in a woman's life, or be it in a man's life too, like,
Yeah, yeah.
especially for millennials like me? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very important to have savings and to be sensible, because, we've seen like today, I think after going through this whole COVID sort of shakedown in the last 1 year, we've all had to go through periods, and we've still been fortunate enough, but there are people who have lost their jobs, lost their incomes, their education plans or their financial plans have got disrupted because of the something which is not their fault, or for that matter anybody's fault. So it's always important to have a nest egg which helps you tide this kind of unforeseen circumstance, and that's why savings is extremely important. So it's important to start early, and save a little bit of your income as much as is possible, and regularly invest it. That will build a corpus. So it's just, I mean, not over splurging, not living beyond your means, not trying to do impulsive purchases for the sake of it, which is on things which are not really fundamentally that important to you. To live within your means, and always remember that you need to have some nest egg to rely on if times get tough. or even to build for your future. I mean, there are a lot of millennials maybe who want to reskill or re-educate themselves. So they need to start saving up for their education, or, somebody wants to sort of change their profession, start something on their own. So for all these things, you will have to have some kind of nest egg, which, which will just give you that mental peace to
True.
pursue your. So like I said, no, money is not an end.
Yeah.
It is a means to an end, and but without it, you don't have the means to your end. So
Right, right.
it's important. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are the some areas where women can go wrong in this journey? Like figuring out their personal finances. How can they avoid certain mistakes? Like if you have made some mistakes and learned from them.
I think one of the mistakes is not investing. The biggest mistake. The biggest mistake is not investing. Just whatever money you have, either spending it on frivolous things or just keeping it in the savings account and earning very little just because of laziness. And it happens to all of us. I mean, even I'm guilty of making those mistakes, when I was younger. Just the opportunity loss of starting early, starting that compounding journey early, I think that is itself the biggest
Okay.
investing mistake. The second being, trying to invest in all the speculative fad type things. Maybe it's okay to do it to some extent, a small part of your corpus. But you can't play or gamble around with your life savings. You have to
Yeah.
treat it with that much respect that it deserves. So yes, it's nice to sort of have a little bit of that kind of activity also, but it should be kept to a minimum which you can tolerate to completely lose. It should not You should not be gambling your life savings and your future,
Yes, yes.
essentially, because it's your future, ultimately, or your family's future. Yeah.
So, uh, given that you've had a long career, what advice would you give? What career advice would you give? Because women often wear multiple hats and it's always a challenge.
Yeah. So I would give the career advice is to be very, very serious about your career from beginning. So I mean, work very hard in school, aspire to, get the best grades, go to the best college possible. So I mean, work hard, essentially. Work hard, don't take things for granted, because it's a very competitive world today for everybody. I mean, it's competitive
Yes.
for men, women, it's competitive for everybody. So, compete, essentially. Give it your best.
Yeah. Since you kind of deal with risk all day, what can be the biggest risks for women in personal finance? Like
Um, yeah.
this is a part of the last question, but yeah.
So I think not knowing what you're doing, that is a big risk. So sometimes, people might sell you products which are unsuitable for you
Yes.
without understanding, you're getting into some product which is totally wrong for you, where your money may get locked in, for a
Yeah.
long period of time, and you don't know, where there's a massive fee being cut out from that product which you're not aware. Not reading. So that is actually the biggest risk. Just doing, not knowing essentially clearly what to expect from your investment, and then essentially you either that it loses value, or you don't have access to it when you need it, or you have been promised some, totally wrong returns, which will never sort of pan out. So those are the kind of risks which I've at least seen people making, you know, uh, in their journeys. And the biggest risk, as I said, is but lack of awareness,
Lack of awareness, yes.
that and not investing.
Yeah.
That is the biggest risk.
So, Aparna, how has your personal finance journey been?
Yeah. So obviously, I do invest by myself, considering I consider myself My own advice here.
That's how
Uh,
it should be.
Yeah, so I invest. So as a part of our ethos at DSP, we believe in sort of eating our own cooking, and
That's a nice phrase. That's a nice
we
phrase.
actually, yeah, actually we. So and it's nice. So essentially, all the people who work at DSP, we invest in the funds which are managed by DSP, and we have a wide variety of funds. So I also invest in funds managed by DSP. Across a core part of my portfolio allocation would be to to Indian large cap quality type of companies, type of funds managed within DSP. There will be some. I do have some bit of fixed income investments also, because
Yeah.
right now, just to balance out the risk,
Yeah.
and particularly because equities are relatively expensive right now. So it helps to have some cushion and also some dry powder, to tactically allocate. So that really helps. So when the markets had fallen in February, March, I was
Yeah.
able to capitalize on that, and I had enough corpus kept aside in fixed income that I was able to invest at and make use of that opportunity and that correction. And also there are some tactical themes. Today, it's very important to have this, I believe, international investments also as part of the portfolio. And, we have funds at DSP which are having those which provide those kind of exposures. So, exposure to some of the global stocks in certain thematic areas like mining or energy or,
Yeah.
agriculture. So, some part of the portfolio, I invest in that as well. So I think it should be a decent mix of Indian equities, international equities, and sort of some bit of fixed income, etc. as well. So fairly, but all invested in DSP funds. So
That's great. So, like you said, you've invested a little bit of amount in FDs as well. Do you
no,
think
no,
it?
no, no. I don't have even 1 rupee in FDs.
Okay.
Not a rupee.
Okay, but do you think investing in traditional instruments like FDs and gold is also important for women?
Yeah, there's no harm at all. It's perfectly fine to have a bit of your investments in, things like PPF or gold. But it's important not to have everything in that, So you should have like a diversified basket of investments. Gold is a good asset class, and you can like wear it also. So, but it's fine to have FDs, it's fine to have gold, it's fine to have PPF, but you should also have a healthy dose of equities ultimately in your portfolio, because they are the ones which will, also sort of compound or do the compounding for you. So while you have other asset classes, but don't ignore equity also. It's important to have that as well.
Yeah, right, right. So I have some other personal questions. I would like to wrap the personal finance bit here. So how do you personally think about personal finance and how do you invest and what's your personal finance philosophy? I think you've told about how you invest, but some
Yeah.
philosophy around it.
Yeah. So I believe that, I actually believe what is taught by a lot of these academic sort of journals,
Yeah.
that ideally, you should have like a 60-40 equity debt portfolio with it's very boring, but I think it's very sensible. With when you're younger, you should have more equity, uh, because you have generally, I'm saying this is not for everybody, obviously, because everybody's circumstances are different, but you can have a higher dose of equity, maybe 70-80% equity, when you are younger and when you are sort of earning and you don't have so much of liabilities, so you can afford to invest more in equities that time. So that broadly is something that I follow. Uh, and being in the field, the profession, maybe because of awareness, as I said, There are tactical opportunities also, which the market sort of gives you. So I try to use those opportunities as well to actively build my portfolio.
Yeah, that's nice. So, are there any people you idolize, both in finance or otherwise? You think, people you look up to, or your biggest learning, derived your
So
biggest learning? Yeah.
yeah. So it's difficult for me to name like one or two people. So obviously, there are many people both in financial and other professions also that one admires. Say people, founders of Google, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Even in India, there are many very strong, people who achieved a lot essentially professionally, that I admire. Then obviously I look up to my parents as well, so there's a lot of inspiration that they have given me. So I don't really think that I can like name one. What I like to do is that I like to read and try to emulate, good things from different people, and rather than have like one idol or something, try and find out, good things, because, you can find different dimensions of excellence in different people. While you may not be able to achieve all of that, but, that's what you admire essentially. So one of the people I admire is also Nikhil Kamath.
Oh, he is great. We all admire him.
Yeah, he's also achieved a lot. So there's a lot of, people who've done really good work, so there's a lot of people to learn from and look up to.
Yeah. Uh, are there any books or movies you want to recommend the younger generation, like folks like me,
To
for
be honest,
inspiration? Yeah.
there is so much, there's so many books and so many movies, and the attention span is so low that I personally don't believe in like a few. It's breadth over, a few. So like I love to watch different, genres of, movies, and now with the kind of OTT platforms and stuff that is there, I think what I would like to say is that maybe, just open your eyes and try to, see what's going on around you. There's so many things
Yes.
you can read, and, there's no one or two. It's really boundless the kind of information and, so many things that are available. So you can choose as per your, I like to read, so like biographies of people, like maybe I recently read a book about Elon Musk. And in the past also I've read, about Warren Buffett, for example, or for that matter, Jack Ma and the Google founders, and then, movies also, all kinds of movies really, and some of our most inspirational movies are, of the Disney variety. So
Yeah.
no,
I think Disney is one thing everybody would want to watch for inspiration. Yeah, I think that's it, Aparna. Thank you so much. This has been a very enlightening speaking with you, and it's a great opportunity that I was able to talk with you today. So I hope you felt the same way.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it was fun. I hope, very happy to, have this opportunity to reach out to people. And yeah, so may the force be with all.
Yeah, all of us. Thank you so much, Aparna.
Thank you. Bye.